Welcome to Dental Business RX. Practice success in 30 minutes or less.
Thank you for calling ABC Dental.
Let's say you have a fairly well-organized, productive, and busy dental practice. You've put in the time and not only organized your back office between your associates, hygienists, and assistants, but you also have an office manager and staff at the front who have specific defined roles. If anything insurance-related needs handled, your financial coordinator takes care of it. If a patient needs scheduled or there's an opening in the schedule, well, we have a schedule coordinator. Oh, and we're presenting a treatment plan to a patient and you need financial arrangements handled, enter our treatment coordinator. It's a well-oiled machine. But what about new patients? New patients are low and we need this fixed. Who do we call? Or referrals are down. We speak with who? Folks, who's responsible for new patients in this practice? Chances are, by default, it's you and your office manager. That's just one of the many things that both of you do. You know, we have this busy, productive office that needs new patients, a regular, steady flow of new patients. We really don't have anyone overall responsible for it. This is where we end up with the new patient coordinator. Now, you may or may not have heard of this position, but we are seeing it more and more in dental practices. And like the treatment coordinator initially, only a few practices have them now, and those that do may have wildly variant duties depending on who you speak with. This is how treatment coordinators were years ago. Really, the only place you found them was orthodontic offices. You're seeing that same trend now with new patient coordinators. More and more people are getting them, but it's still not a very popular position in the dental industry. And I did an episode introducing this position, you know, what it is and what it does back in late 2024, episode 166 to be specific. But since then, I've run into numerous questions about this position from, you know, do I really need one? Should I get one? Should I get a full-time one, part-time one? To what do they do? What should I have them working on? And so on. So I thought, you know, as A, this isn't a super well-known position yet, being so new in the industry, and B, new patients are pretty important, it would be worth doing a deeper dive on this new patient coordinator position to answer these questions and provide more insight into how this position works, along with whether it would be a good ad for your practice. My name is Jeff Bloomberg, and I'm your host. And, you know, I think the best way to introduce this would really be by looking at how all of this works in other businesses, because I think sometimes what happens, you know, we're so focused on the dental industry, dental offices, etc. We get so used to how they work that we don't look at sort of just the, you know, if you take it out of the dental realm, you can sort of look at the overall general theory of organization and where all of this fits. So if we look at how most businesses acquire new customers, number one, it has a lot to do with the relationship the customer will end up having with the business. You know, maybe they'll advertise. Maybe they'll have an account representative and a centralized sales department, or for retail customers, people just walk in. You know, maybe like, for instance, you might have a marketing company and they have, account reps and they advertise for business, and you talk to an account rep and that becomes your account rep from then on. Right? Or you might have a business where part of the sales force is focused on new people and the other part of the sales force is focused on, existing customers, right? Or you might have a retail type store where you advertise and people show up or they don't, right? But if anything, if the business owner is at least semi-savvy, they're going to have someone responsible for this flow of new business. It's considered that important. You know, I need to make sure I'm getting a good flow of new business, whether it's just leads that sales converts or people that just show up. Someone is on the hook for this, all right? Someone is on the hook. And any business owner worth his or her salt will have somebody responsible for generating whatever this business considers to be new business. It's part of it's an important step, or in the business's workflows, for lack of a better term. It's something that the business considers to be vital to its survival, right? And you would hope they also have some attention also on making sure that current customers stay or are retained within the business. So now if we transpose these concepts that new business is important to most businesses into dentistry, and you take the average dental practice and you look, the first thing you'd have to ask yourself is, who is responsible for the new patient flow? You know, how many, how they're scheduled, where they're coming from, etc. And what actions are taken on a routine basis to ensure that these people, that it actually comes off. Because it's one thing to go like, okay, I'm the office manager, I'm also responsible for new patients, right? And let's say the office needs 40 or 50 new patients a month and I'm only getting 25. Well, okay, it's the 28th of the month and I'm at 25 new patients and we were supposed to get 40 this month. What am I doing differently now? Am I doing anything to make sure that I get at least more than 25? In a lot of cases, no. It just, I kind of look at it and go, well, we advertised and we got whatever we got. Do you see? And it's a little bit different than other positions because if I had a schedule coordinator and let's say it's the 28th of the month and on the 30th, the doc's morning is completely open. There's a 3 or 4 hour opening. You better bet that that schedule coordinator would be running around and making phone calls and trying to figure out a way to fill that big opening on the 30th. 2 days from now before the month ends because we want to make sure we end the month well. Same thing with the treatment coordinator. If collections are only at 120 and we want to do 140 and we got 2 days left in the month, that treatment coordinator is hunting for ways that we can pull off that last $20,000. But what are you doing with new patients? Is that same, if new patients are flagging or they're not where they're supposed to be, is anybody really doing anything? Or are we kind of just resigning ourselves to fate? Well, if people call, we'll get them on the schedule. If not, we're going to end up where we end up. You see? And that kind of gives you some insight into what the basic problem is. Nobody really owns this statistic. They do, but they don't. They can say, oh, yeah, I'm responsible. The owner doctor can or the office manager can. But nobody owns it and does things with it to make sure that it's actually up. Okay, fine. We do marketing, but in a lot of cases, marketing is outsourced, which is fine. I'm okay with that. And again, I have maybe it's a unique viewpoint in outsourcing. I don't think it is. I think it's a workable viewpoint in outsourcing. But that is, if I'm going to outsource something, I'm going to hold whoever I'm outsourcing, whatever that something is, to account the same way I would hold an employee. The only difference is I'm not employing the person to do it within my business. I'm paying someone else to do it. So why am I outsourcing my postcard marketing or my pay-per-click or my Facebook advertising or my implant funnels? Why am I doing that? I'm doing that because I don't have the resources to do it internally, and this company does it at volume so they can do it at a better price than if I brought somebody in-house to do it, especially since none of us know what the heck we're doing. So I'm paying them to do it. But that means that I'm going to hold them to account just like if I had somebody working for me. Same thing if, let's say I was outsourcing insurance filing. In follow-up, I'm going to hold them to account just like if I had a financial coordinator, sitting in the practice. You have to have that same viewpoint with regards to outsourcing. But again, if I'm outsourcing marketing, what am I expecting to get from the marketing company? New patients? No, I'm not going to get new patients. I'm going to get leads. That's what I'm going to get from the marketing company, whether it's people calling my practice or filling out forms, or in the case of an implant, for example, again, definitely filling out forms, or if it's pay-per-click, they might be filling out forms or calling me. That's what I expect from the marketing company. If they're doing a good job, I should be getting a decent flow of leads. And to that end, if you look at marketing return on investment, the majority of what determines return on investment happens inside the practice. I'll say that again. The majority of what determines your marketing's return on investment, even if I'm paying an external company, the majority of what determines your marketing's return on investment happens inside your practice. It has nothing to do with the marketing company. Trust me, I've spoken to a lot of people who own marketing companies, and this is sort of their bane, in the sense that they'll do a good job and they'll provide leads to a practice, but then the doctor's looking and going, well, gosh, but I'm getting no new patients. But the doctor's not looking and going, oh, I have 100 leads. I had 100 patients call my practice this month. My office just didn't schedule any. Because generally speaking, if I go speak to whoever's handling the phone and I go, well, you got 100 phone calls and you didn't schedule anybody, it's the rare person who's going to go, yeah, I just really don't know what I'm doing. I need help figuring it out. That would be great. I could deal with that person. What are most people going to say? Oh, they're low-quality patients. They were just interested in a deal. That's what they're going to say. Because nobody wants to own the fact that they're being ineffective. I hate to say the word nobody. Quite a few people don't want to own the fact that they're being ineffective. They'll own when they're being effective, but they won't own when they're being ineffective because, that's bad, right? Again, so let's say I spend, $10,000 on some marketing, whatever it is, pay-per-click or whatever, and I get no leads or little to no leads. Well, that's a marketing problem. That means my marketing is no good. Okay? Now, that's modified to a degree by a couple things. If I'm doing something that appeals to a lot of different people, let's say I'm advertising dentist near me, or I'm advertising just a general special in my practice, discounted cleaning and exam, well, I'm expecting to spend less per lead for those patients than I would spend for, let's say, an implant patient or an FMR patient. Let me explain that again. So if I'm advertising for just general dental new patients, people who want to come in and get their teeth cleaned, I expect to spend less to get someone in that situation than I spend to get somebody who specifically is looking for implants. That patient is going to cost me more to get. All right. So in theory, I could spend $10,000 and get more of these patients coming in just to have their teeth cleaned and less patients coming in who need implants. But the idea is that the patients coming in that need implants are going to be larger cases from a business perspective. Okay, but let's go back to this. Let's say I spend $10,000. I get little to no leads, like to the point where it's just like nothing. Well, then I have a marketing problem. My marketing is not doing a good job. That's a marketing company issue. They're not getting me any leads. Now, let's say I spend $10,000 and I get 100 leads, and they're not properly handled by the practice. That's on the practice. That's not on the marketing. Now, from my position as the owner of the business, I'll look and go, well, I just spent $10,000 and I got no new patients. And I'm short-sighted if I don't look into why didn't I get more new patients. That's where I'm going to make big mistakes. I could have whoever's handling my phones being extraordinarily ineffective and buy into the fact, or not fact, I buy into the idea that the problem is with my marketing company, cancel my marketing, and things just get worse at that point. I could change my marketing company as a form of protest, but it's not going to do me much good. They're doing what they were supposed to do. They're getting me leads. The problem is in the practice. So the ROI is going to be poor, but not because of the marketing company. They got me the leads. So not having somebody who really eats, sleeps, breathes, thinks new patients in this instance is a problem. Do you see? The real question is just, should that person be full or part-time? If I had somebody who's really thinking new patients, like my whole job, let's say I work for you, my whole job is I get you a ton of new patients. That's my job from multiple sources, between coordinating with your marketing company, between asking for referrals, all these different places. That's just what I do. This is my job. I get you new patients. Okay? Well, then you'd have a ton of new patients, just like if I'm responsible for filling your schedule, or if I'm responsible for closing cases and I'm overall responsible for office collections. The only question, again, is whether this person should be full or part-time. Because no matter what size your practice is, someone has to own this statistic. And whether you need a full or a part-time new patient coordinator really depends on how many new patients you're looking to get. If I'm looking at getting a high volume of new patients, or maybe even there could be other modifying factors. Let's say I'm trying to get out of network and I want to get 100 new patients per month, because that's going to help accelerate getting out of network for me, or make me more comfortable getting out of network. And if I'm getting out of network and I'm getting 100 new patients a month, there's a good chance. Everybody I'm getting isn't out of network. I'm just not accepting their insurance. If I get 100 new patients, there are going to be some of those patients who don't want to stick with my practice because they're going to look for a practice that's in network. You see? So if I want 100 new patients and I'm getting out of network, I might need somebody who's handling new patients full time. But okay, so let's play this forward. So let's say I'm paying this person a decent salary, maybe some type of incentive based on the number of new patients I'm getting. But if they're doing a good enough job to where I can actually move my practice out of network, charge what I'm supposed to charge for my services, that ends up working out pretty good. That's actually not a bad deal in the long term. And what would I expect this person to be doing? Well, this person would be handling all the new patient calls and inquiries. They'd be converting and scheduling these patients. They'd be pushing my referral and review programs. And when I say pushing referrals, let's look at something for a second. And I just brought this up in a meeting earlier today. But I want to just illustrate something to you with regards to referrals for a second. So a lot of you, if you're a general practitioner, will tell me that you have a family practice. You have a family practice. So what does that mean? That means that you don't just see mom, you see mom and dad and the kids, right? Or you don't just see the kids, you see mom and dad as well. Your family practice, if you're a GP. Okay. So the average household in the United States has 3 people in it. That's the average household. Now, we've studied this with our clients who have told us, I have a family practice. just to see how family is their practice really. And this is a simple exercise you can do for yourself because we built up some basic average numbers. So we'll ask a client, what does it normally look like? We'll ask them for two numbers. One, give me a list of your active patients. Give me a number. So let's say they go, okay, I have 1,000 active patients. Okay, good. You go, then the next thing you ask is how many unique addresses amongst these active patients? So how many active patients and how many unique addresses? Now, why are we asking for unique addresses? Because if it's a family practice, I should have a lot of active patients and far less unique addresses. As a matter of fact, let's say I had 2 patients from every household, I'd have 1,000 patients and 500 unique addresses. Do you see how this works? What do the numbers usually work out to? 1,000 patients and 800 unique addresses. It's 1.2 patients per household. So what that means, and I just want you to really let this sink in for a second. I don't know how intently you're listening, but this is happening to you. And I want you to get slightly, not outraged about it, but at least think about this, okay? You have people coming into your practice every day, dropping patients off, waiting for patients to be done with procedures that are most likely family members that don't have a dentist and aren't being asked if they'd like to become a patient in your practice. You have people coming into your practice all the time that are prospective patients and no one is talking to them. Family members, you have patients in your practice who have family members who could be seeing you and nobody's asking them about this. And it's not because your staff are bad or your staff have bad intent. It's just nobody's doing it. Nobody's making it important. But if I go to, and take a look at how many patients you see in a given day. If you see 30 patients a day, and you're like the average office, okay, most of those folks have people in their household that don't come to your office and could be. So if I talk to Mrs. Smith, who just had her teeth cleaned, and I say, hey, Mrs. Smith, is there anybody in your household who needs a dentist? And she says, well, my husband's dentist retired a few years ago and he still hasn't found a dentist. And you go, good, well, we have a new patient special he can capitalize on that. We can go ahead and schedule him now. How much did that cost to get that new patient? It cost nothing. It cost whatever my hourly salary is, 5 minutes of my hourly salary. And multiply that by every patient walking through your door on a routine basis. So that could be netting you at least 10, 20, 30 new patients a month. Nobody does it. But this is stuff that your new patient coordinator would be doing. Running a referral program. By running a referral program, I don't mean just asking people, because the whole referral script is a bit like, well, you've been a patient in my practice for a long time, and we really appreciate the biggest compliment our patients can pay as a referral. That's not how conversations actually go. That's just awkward. Just talk to people. Hey, do you have anybody in your household who needs a dentist? We're accepting new patients. That's how communication actually goes, folks. We know this. You know this. Try it. It's really not that difficult. Try it after you listen to this podcast. Ask the next 5 patients you see. Look at their chart. You might even see on the chart. See if there's anybody that lives in their house with them that needs a dentist. And I guarantee you'll at least get 1 or 2 new patients out of the thing. And it costs you nothing. Whereas you're spending $200, $300, $400 for postcards and pay-per-click and stuff like this. That will cost you $0. But this is one of the reasons you need a new patient coordinator. Not because they could do this, but because they're thinking with this. They're pushing this. Just like that scheduler is pushing people to get on the schedule. Or the treatment coordinator is pushing people to get signed up for treatment and get on the schedule. So they'd do that. They would also oversee all of your marketing and work with your marketing companies to work out marketing strategy. They would manage your social media and your online presence, and they would make sure that your marketing is working and has decent ROI, okay? They're handling everything having to do with the whole cycle of production with new patients. So let's say, we're rolling along and they're handling the phones and they're doing all this other stuff, social media, the reviews, referrals, etc. And I start getting, 30, 40 new patient calls a day, 20 new patient calls a day. Well, that's now a full-time job just handling those phone calls. So this almost would work from an organizational perspective. Let's say I had somebody who was a scheduler, not to jump off the beam here, but to give you an idea of how this might work. Let's say I have someone who's a scheduler, and they're responsible for the doctor's schedule, the hygiene schedule, as well as reactivation. Well, as the practice grows, and now let's say we have 2 or 3 full-time hygienists, we might take someone, hire them, and make them the hygiene coordinator, and they handle the 2-3 full-time hygienist schedule as well as doing reactivation, and then the overall scheduler is supervising as well as handling the doctor's schedule. You kind of split those functions up, right? Well, this might happen with your new patient coordinator. You might hire somebody full-time who's just handling the phones, handling new patient inquiries, and your new patient coordinator is handling everything else with relation to new patients, right? It might get really big. We have clients that have this where they've centralized this. And this to a degree, all the new patient functions. And this to a degree is why sometimes corporate beats the average private practice with regards to new patient acquisition. And they can't beat them in any other regard, but they beat them on new patient acquisition because if I call a corporate practice, 9 times out of 10, I'm talking to somebody in a cubicle. And all they have going on is they're talking to me. They don't have a patient coming and asking them a question. They're not having to check somebody out. They're not having to answer a question from a coworker. They're not answering the phone. They're just talking to me. Do you see? So, whereas if I call a private practice, the person's doing all those other things, and they may not convert as well. So this is where corporate sometimes has a leg up because that's what they do. Well, if you have enough new patient volume going on, and you have multiple offices, we have clients that have this. They've centralized it. They have a centralized phone area, and they just route the patients to those various practices. And what I would do in that case too is I wouldn't just focus on new patients, but also focus on keeping my patients active, but that's a whole other conversation. But it really depends on what it is that you're looking to do, you see? If you're not looking at getting a ton of new patients, well, maybe then you don't need somebody who's full-time, but you need somebody who's part-time. But I would definitely have somebody who owns this statistic. It really depends on what your needs are, what your plans and your goals are to determine if this is something that might be in your future, right? But in any event, this new patient coordinator position is something you'll be hearing more and more about as the industry evolves. And it's something that you want to think with because if you take a look, if you wanted to expand your practice, right? You want to grow your practice. What's going to make it grow is more new business and then retaining the business that you have. You can get a bunch of new business and not retain anybody, in which case you don't grow. Or you could retain your patients and then not get new business, in which case you're going to continue to shrink. You're going to shrink over time. You need to do both. So if you're focusing on that and you have people whose job it is to own those statistics, then you have the potential to have nice, steady growth. And hopefully if one of these new patient coordinators is in your future, this gives you a little bit of a head start as to what you might be looking for. Anyway, wanted to throw that out there, revisit a little bit, because I've been asked about this a little bit more, and I wanted you to think with it. I do hope this helps. If you want to know more about MGE, you can find us online at mgeonline.com or call us at 800-640-1140. Folks, have a great week, and we'll see you at the next episode.